Explainer for you today. You might actually want to lower the lights for this one, because we are stepping away from the ordinary and venturing straight into the shadows. We're going to unpack the deeply unsettling lore and the literal mechanics of astral nightmares from the Insidious universe. We're breaking down exactly how these supernatural phenomena operate, step by step, to truly understand the danger lurking in the dark. Let's get into it.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's a premise that hits us at our absolute most vulnerable state, right? That moment we give up all control and go to sleep. What actually happens when you close your eyes, drift off, and your soul completely detaches, leaving your physical body empty and totally defenseless? Well, to understand the terrifying mechanics of this, we're going to look at the documented case of a young man named Stephen. Now, to really grasp the horror here, we first have to understand the baseline of Stephen's reality. On the surface, his life looked entirely normal. He's this 18-year-old kid living with his family out in California. Now, he had dealt with some profound tragedy early on. His father actually passed away from an illness when Stephen was just 10. Since then, his mom had been raising him and his younger brother Stanley. But Stephen matured fast. He threw himself into his studies and even earned admission to a massive, highly prestigious college. Everything was looking up, you know? He was genuinely happy. But all of that normalcy completely shattered during what we'll call the library incident. So Stephen's on the ground floor of his college library studying with a friend. Looking for a specific book, he wanders off. He walks up to the first floor, just navigating through these massive shelves. But suddenly things start to shift. The whole atmosphere plummets. It gets incredibly dark. This bizarre, creepy smoke starts filling the air. He even notices other students sitting around, but they look completely drained, super pale, like their literal life force had just been sucked out. And then, cutting right through that eerie silence, he hears a voice in the dark, a voice calling his name. He follows that voice, and he finds this woman standing with her back to him, just aggressively scratching at a window pane. She just keeps whispering his name over and over. When he steps a little closer, she slowly turns around. And then, she smiles. But guys, it was not a human smile. Right before his eyes, her face begins to mutate. It flushes this horrific, deep red color while her body turns pitch black. She was transforming into a literal demon. The second it sees Stephen, it growls, lunges forward, and charges right at him. Stephen turns and absolutely sprints for the exit, desperately looking for a red door he'd seen earlier, but it's completely gone. He's utterly trapped. And this brilliantly illustrates the terrifying duality of his reality. Because in the physical world, Stephen's still just sitting at that desk on the ground floor of the library. His eyes are tightly shut and he's shivering violently. But in this other realm, this place we're going to define as the further, his consciousness, his actual soul, is running for its absolute life, completely trapped in a nightmare with zero exit. Back in the physical world, his friend notices him shaking. She starts panicking, throws a splash of water directly onto his face, and yells his name. Stephen gasps awake, completely disoriented. He realizes he'd been asleep the entire time. He never actually physically left his chair. But here's the impossible truth that makes this so deeply chilling. That first floor of the library he thought he was walking through, it had been permanently closed off and abandoned for years. He hadn't walked up there. His mind had. So after that incident, Stephen's physical and mental state just totally collapses. It's a really rapid descent. He goes straight home, immediately goes to sleep. And from that day forward, everything is different. He stops going to college entirely, just locks himself away in his room all day, stops eating, stops drinking. But at night, that is when he starts roaming the halls of his house like a ghost, just silently pacing. And honestly, the most disturbing part was his new fixation on his younger brother, Stanley. Stephen would slip into Stanley's room at night and just stand in the corner, staring at him. For hours on end. Just standing there in the pitch black. The climax of this deterioration was horrifying on both planes of existence. In the real world, Stanley wakes up one night to a weird scratching sound. He finds Stephen in the corner, eyes rolled back completely white, literally scratching evil mantras into the wall with his bare fingernails. Stanley approaches him, Stephen turns, lunges, and begins violently choking his own brother. But, simultaneously, over in the further, Stephen's soul is trapped in a dark room. That smiling devil is standing right behind him, placing a hand on Stephen's head and torturing him, causing Stephen's soul to just scream in absolute agony. Okay, so Stephen's mom rushes into the room, manages to break the grip, and saves Stanley, while Stephen just collapses unconscious.
Now, recognizing that this was way, way beyond any kind of normal medical emergency, his mom makes a desperate call. Enter Elise, a renowned demonologist and paranormal expert. When Elise arrives and examines the situation, she finally brings some order and a crucial explanation to the absolute chaos they were experiencing. Let's look at exactly what Elise diagnosed here. Right away, Elise explains the core mechanic at play: astral projection. This isn't just regular dreaming, guys. This is the literal ability of the human soul to detach from the physical body during deep sleep and actually travel to entirely different dimensions. Turns out, Stephen, without even realizing it, had been an extraordinarily gifted astral projector since he was a little kid. But this time, he'd projected his soul way too far from his physical tether. He was lost.
And because he wandered too far, he crossed into a dimension Elise calls the Further. Let me explain exactly what this place is, because it is wild. The Further is this dark, purgatory-like realm. It's entirely populated by horrific, tortured souls and malicious demonic entities. Because Stephen's soul was out wandering this dark realm, his physical body sitting in his bed back home was completely empty, just a vacant shell. And those dark entities in the Further, they were actively fighting to hijack Stephen's empty physical body so they could re-enter the human world. That's exactly why his real-world body was attacking his brother. A parasite was literally trying to take the wheel. So, the absolutely crucial point is how to fix this before the possession becomes, well, permanent. Elise quickly puts together a high-stakes escape plan for Stephen's wandering soul. Step 1, she has to project her own voice into the Further, telling Stephen to focus only on the voices of the living to guide him back. Step 2, he has to physically outrun the demons closing in on him in that realm. And step 3, the big one, he has to find and cross back through the red door. That door is the exact threshold between our world and the Further. Well, the execution of this plan triggered absolute chaos. Over in the Further, Stephen hears Elisa's voice and starts running toward it. But the demons notice. That red-faced devil from the library spots him, charges, and literally grabs Stephen by the leg, dragging him straight to the ground. Instantly, back in the real world, the house begins tearing itself apart. The lights are flickering violently, objects are smashing against the walls, and Stephen's physical body starts screaming and threshing in excruciating pain right there on the bed.
So, with the physical and spiritual worlds violently colliding like this, it all came down to one really desperate question. Can a mother's voice defeat the darkness of the Further? Seeing her son's body being torn apart, Stephen's mother screams his name with absolutely everything she has. And that pure emotional connection from the physical world, it pierces directly through the darkness of the Further. Hearing his mother's terrified voice gives Stephen's soul this final surge of superhuman strength. He violently kicks his leg out of the devil's grip, sprints forward, and throws himself right through the red door. In the real world, Stephen's eyes snap open. He gasps for air and instantly throws his arms around his mom, sobbing. He was back. The parasitic link was completely broken. Now, Stephen got out. He got incredibly lucky. Thanks to Elise, he survived and was able to return to a normal life. But this explainer doesn't end there, because Elise's journey was far from over. Saving Stephen was really just a precursor. Elise would soon find herself entangled in a case that was far darker and vastly more dangerous: the infamous Lambert family case. A haunting so profound and so aggressive that it would alter the course of Elise's life and, honestly, her afterlife forever. This is where the true terror of the Further fully unlocks. The Lambert case introduces us to Dalton and his father Josh, both of whom share the exact same perilous gift of astral projection that Stephen had. But the demons targeting the Lamberts, they are far older and way more powerful. And as the lore expands into its final chapters, Dalton and Josh find themselves inexplicably drawn back. They're bound to the Further once again, forced to confront the very entities that have hunted their family for literally decades. They have to journey deeper into that dark realm than anyone has ever gone before to protect their family. Which leaves us with the ultimate question as we wrap up this explainer. When Dalton and Josh cross that threshold one last time, will they be able to defeat the terrifying spirits waiting in the dark? Or will they be trapped, unable to close the red door forever? It's a pretty terrifying thought to leave you with the next time you close your eyes to sleep, isn't it? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive into the lore-focused learners. Stay curious and sleep tight.